You know, being an opera singer was a really interesting experience. I studied and performed for about a decade, a little bit more actually, and it really shaped a fundamental part of my life. From 18 to 30, I was entrenched in the world of classical music and in the world of opera. And after I quit, I decided to not really talk about music anymore. I was really reticent against music. I felt burned by the industry. I felt that I was burned by my own sort of existence because I quit this field and I quit this career, and you know, it was really hard. It was I was like grieving my own life in a way because I was so committed to doing something and seeing it through, but a mixture of anxiety and stress and the pressures of being a tenor and the pressures of other people's projections of what you should do and be and sound like, and you could never really be good enough, and starting the audition circuit, having a power agent that ended up being a really, really traumatic and not beneficial experience really left a sour taste in my mouth. I was harassed by a director, almost quit a production. There were so many things that happened in the middle end of my career that made me realize that it was time to get out. And I remember I had a mentor who was like, look, if you don't get out now, it's better now at 30 than at 40. So for a long time, I didn't even think about it. I didn't want to think about it. I didn't perform. I shut the chords down. I never sang. I sort of sequestered myself. My last gig was in 2019 in France, in Limoges, Massy and Reims in France. I sang Macduff and Giuseppe Verdi's Macbeth. And I came across and remembered this performance from my final recital in school. And in this, I sing Nessun Dorma from Giacomo Puccini's Turandot. And I'm really excited to kind of talk about it, talk through the process of singing, but also go into some of the details of how it is to produce this sound, how to sing, and talk about psychology of singing and how difficult it can be. So here we go. You know, it's a funny thing because a couple days before this gig, I actually was in Sacramento singing a Tosca, an orchestrated version of Tosca where there was no set. We were essentially at the front of the front of the stage. And Puccini was something I was really passionate about. Puccini is one of the great Italian composers, along with Giuseppe Verdi, which is another one, and both of those guys were composers that I really found myself keen to singing. Nessun Dorma was a little bit heavier for me in terms of age at the time. Now it'd probably be great, honestly, but I'm a little out of shape. But at the time, and this performance in 2018, I was 30, and I had a lot of anxiety around singing. I was very nervous all the time, and this particular performance, I said, you know, this is my last performance at this academy. I'm going to really focus up and really just try to enjoy it and soak it up because I felt in my spirit that things weren't right and I was running out of time. And it's funny, I filmed another reaction to this particular video a couple years ago when I started my channel, and I was so negative about opera and the performance and the experience because there was so much trauma that was accompanied, especially at this particular place, you know, a sort of dehumanizing, you know, being called by your voice type and just some of the expectations that were set that were so high and so impossible to really reach. But Nessun Dorma is a really beautiful aria that is very much all about release. Being yourself, feeling confident, starts, you know, Nessun dorma, nessun dorma. No one sleeps, no one sleeps. Sitting with your hand at the edge of the piano, it's a comforting thing to do. Wonderful pianist Jose Melendez was this was actually a really fun collaboration. I don't think I'll ever miss this. The pressure, the nervousness of having to get up on stage, the feeling of fear of not being good enough. I do miss the feeling, the sensation of singing, especially, when you go up, guardi le stelle che tremano d'amore e di speranza. Look at the stars that shake with love and hope. The poems that we used to sing, the poetry that is set to song, there's unlimited amounts. French chanson, German lieder, Italian arias. This stuff is deeply emotional, deeply poetic, deeply spiritual on a cosmic level. And then what's even more amazing is that being a tenor is one of the greatest joys I've ever had. Singing high notes, you feel them resonate all through your head and your face, and sometimes you're singing so loudly that you can't actually even hear the piano next to you. It's crazy. That part I miss. I miss singing with an orchestra. I miss experiencing the joy of meeting eyes with a conductor in the stage and being like, okay, I see you. We're going to do this together. You're cueing me in. Off I go. And then we start. There's an amazing sensation there. But it's masked by the terror at times of being on stage. It really is a terrifying experience, but the stage fright can really overwhelm. I mean, that excerpt is one of the most beautiful excerpts in all of opera. I mean, my mistero è chiuso in me. My mystery is closed in me. Il nome mio nessun saprà. No one will know my name. And the plot, of course, is that Turandot is looking to find out the name of Karloff, so that by finding out his name, she can execute him. And if she can't find out his name, well, they're gonna get married. And I just love how this piece soars up to the high A's. It's just such a masculine. Ma il mio mistero è chiuso in me, il nome mio nessun saprà, no. And then you just rip your heart out and leave it on the table. It's so incredibly satisfying to emote through the power of the voice. It's that part was always incredibly satisfying. And then pulling all the way back on Splenderà. That may even have been pulled back, depending on the venue. The thing is, you're only as good as the performance, that you've had the day before. And in this particular moment, it's funny, even now, so many years later, there's a section here where I still think I'm like, I should have closed that more. There's a part right here where this is just such crazy stuff. This is how crazy it is. Right there. Sceglierò. I wish I had just gone sceglierò. You just raise that soft palate ever so slightly so that everything was kind of in line, but instead it goes a little splatty. It goes splendid, which is just a little white, a little not covered, which means up in the soft palate and really raised and in the correct position. And yeah, it's funny how even now I'm like, oop, fuck. My colleagues sang the chorus here. It was a surprise to me. It was a nice gift from Jose to me. I love this little quarter. Takes the edge off, you know? At the morning I will win, vincerò. You know, I lived for the applause for so long that sometimes I would go to sleep and I would dream of applause. And I think, you know, you hear that and you may say, well, that's very egotistical and you're very self-centered and all that other stuff. But the reality is that I was chasing validation. And for the longest time, the reason why I sang was for approval. Approval of my parents, approval of an audience, approval maybe even of myself. You can't run away from that stuff, and it does catch up to you. You can't run away from a lack of confidence and insecurity and not feeling good enough and wanting to be more, wanting to do this, wanting to do that. Eventually, all that stuff catches up with you and you have to sort of make a decision and say, you know, like, I'm going to exist with my faults and the things that make me not great, but also the things that make me wonderful and the things that make me a good person and the things that make me talented and just a human being. And a career in the arts is delicate because you are sometimes forced to contemplate your purpose in the world, and not in a good way. In a way that's like, well, what's my meaning? What is my purpose? Why am I singing opera? Like, this could be better, that could be better. It's never good enough. So therefore, why am I performing? Why am I on stage? Why am I putting myself through all of this? Is it for applause? Is it to tell a story? Is it to give something back? Do people even want to hear singing? And do people even give a shit about opera? And culturally, we were always striving to get people to pay attention to us by going to local, venues and singing at random bars and doing these, there was that big popular moment where it'd be like, well, random acts of culture. I hated that shit because ultimately it's like, wait, pay attention to us. We're important, let's go sing at a school. We're educating. And while I see the merit in that, I also see it as like some parlor circus act where we want to try to get people to be convinced that the classical music world and the singing world is somehow relevant. And on this channel, I try really hard to express the value of classical music through the use of video games because there's a shit ton of classical music in video games, whether you know it or not. And for me, it's just an interesting and fascinating perspective to sort of have arrived at, that what I did for 10 years did have value, did have meaning, was important. But I think ultimately looking back on it, I can look back on it with joy, with still a little bit of pain, but also with admiration and adoration for myself for going through those trials. I remember in 2013, I called my mom and I said, Mom, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to quit. And we had this real heart-to-heart where it was like, well, why don't you, see it through, finish up this diploma at the college that I was at the time. And I was like, I don't know. My anxiety's gotten really bad. My stage fright has gotten terrible. And I pushed through and did it. But to what end? And I'm glad that I didn't quit that. And while I should have, and I could have had a jump start on being a voice actor, and doing acting was something that I was always really passionate about as a child. I am grateful that I took the time to grow with music and through music, and from 18 to 30, that's no small amount. I really feel like I grew into the man that I am today. And I feel like I'm so grateful that I've been able to merge my interests and stuff. But all that to say, a bit of a ramble, but classical music is special. Classical music is important. It's valid. And whether we hear it in video games or whether we experience it in a concert hall like this, anything that moves you is worth experiencing. And I encourage you to explore classical music, and I encourage you to explore opera. And even if you don't get it, even if you think it's stupid, watch a YouTube video on opera. Allow yourself to feel this kind of power that can come from hearing another person sing. It's funny because they say that the soldiers overseas will listen to opera sometimes for humanity or for strength, and I understand that, because opera is a form of athleticism, because it requires the entire body. I don't have to sing this. These are microphones for the radio. They weren't microphones to be heard. Anyway, I wanted to try something new. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it at the very least. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.